we talking about pivots. So if you're a business owner, you're somebody who have been in business, you're thinking about starting one, you're thinking about quitting one. Okay, this is where you want to be. We're gonna talk about pivots, how to navigate through them. Praise has recently done that, and we're gonna get into some other sales strategies and things that could help you make more money in your business. So if that's interesting to you, then this is probably where you want to be this week. Praise, what's up, champ? How we feeling?
Man, another day, another dollar. I feel great, man. Just excited to be here and honestly, just excited to be your mentee. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this journey was scary because I didn't know anything, but the way you've been shepherding, the way you've been patient, has really just given me more confidence to keep coming back here prepared. So yeah, man, everything's been great. Everything's
Yeah.
been
No, that's dope. And we can't act like what happened yesterday didn't happen. So cause bro, I'm gonna tell you, at one point, I think I like completely zoned out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It was such an out of body experience for me yesterday. What's up, Candace? Um, so I want to get like your perspective, right? Which is always a rich perspective, just so everybody know what we're talking about. Okay. So right now we're doing our 5 day challenge. Purpose to Profits Challenge. Shout out to everybody. Some of y'all on here probably are in there, which is great. But last night was crazy. So we going, everything gliding. We having a great time. Everybody asking questions. They getting their questions answered in Q&A. Me and David killing it. And then it was like, and I started to see it happen, but I ain't tech savvy, so I didn't know what was happening when I saw it happening.
Yeah.
And so during the transition, I was like, I saw the screen froze. I thought it was Taylor though. I'm so goofy, right? She moderating, so I'm looking at the screen freeze and I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, the whole thing about to shut off on everybody, right? And
Yeah.
then I see the screen completely like leave, and then it came back, and I'm like, Taylor's still there. That's interesting. I'm not figuring it out. It's on my end, bro. I'm really moving in slow motion with my thinking, right? And so I'm over here, I run, do my thing, get a snack. I'm coming back for my part to present. And then I'm talking and I'm like, why everybody froze? It's like, no, Negro, you froze. You know what I'm saying? And so, bro, in real, like, it was like I was melting in real time. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Thank God, right? I married well. So I got a wife that wasn't sitting around eating bonbons, watching Netflix. She came in, tried to start helping me navigate all the tech stuff. And we tried every iteration, bro. We done rebooted this computer, I don't know how many times. And we done unplugged one monitor, plugged into another one. 'Cause I got two televisions here in my office. And long story short, every time I got back on, I probably got kicked off of Zoom probably 16 times yesterday in that time frame, in that 30 to 40 minutes. And so I'm over here praying, I'm warring again, and my wife just was like, "You got to use your phone." I'm like, "How am I gonna do that?" So I'm whining to her, and she trying to explain it to me. I'm like, I can't understand all that. Just do it. Whatever it is, just do it. So she like, "You're gonna have to cut the volume off on this and cut your phone." So then God was like, "Look, you got a tripod over there." I was like, "Dang, I do got a tripod." So I started putting all the pieces together, and before you knew it, some 45 minutes later, and shout out to David for carrying the torch during that time. Not only I went back and watched it, not only did he fill in time, he came out game. Like he literally took a guy's idea, turned it into a webinar, and pitched it to him in 20, 30 minutes, which was dope. And then yeah, man, by y'all grace, I got back on and was able to finish. But that has never happened in close to 3 years of ever doing this. And typically, my wife would have been teaching a fitness class in the evening. Wednesday was the only day that so had that happened any other day, I'd have been dead in the. I wouldn't even because I wouldn't have thought to use my phone to do something
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? Because she was like, "Yeah, just cut the Wi-Fi off on your phone, use your phone service, etc." So talking to start the conversation out about pivots, I had to make some major ones yesterday. Somebody said it was fire. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. It was nerve wracking for sure, but yesterday I prepared differently than I prepared on Monday, and on the other side of it, I see his hand, I see his grace, and I know why, right? Because I needed to be prepared for anything, and so it all worked out. One of my mentors said, "A prepared man is better than a prepared message,"
100%.
right? And
100%.
yeah, yeah. Candace said it was beautiful to see how y'all never missed a beat. The team God put together. Amen to that, sis, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Amen.
heavy, and I think it was a growth moment, honestly, because neither one of us we had never had to do that before, right?
Yeah.
So you never know what you're capable of until you put in a position to see what you're capable of. So it was dope.
100%. Yeah, man. And just to piggyback off of that a little bit, I I'm glad that in the midst of that happening, and this is just how your mind works, is something that I've seen. You didn't lose sight of the mission, right? And I feel like this could go to everybody who's listening because you're gonna face setbacks, right? You're gonna face things that are gonna happen that you wish it didn't happen, right? But one thing that you didn't let happen is you didn't lose sight of the mission. You got back on. It was like, listen, y'all, life happens, but here's value, regardless of what happened. And I feel like that was something that I took away because I know there's gonna be setbacks, there's gonna be Wi-Fi issues, all that good stuff. But you came back like as dialed in as if nothing happened, right? You addressed what happened with your humanity, like, hey, y'all, life happened, and you're like, all right, but back to business. Like, I'm not gonna just like that's not gonna distract us from the reason why y'all are in the room, right? So I feel like that was super important for me to see, especially being under you getting mentored because you just didn't lose sight of the mission. That I just showed how dialed in you were. Like it happened, you were like, scratch that. Can y'all see this? All right, y'all gonna get this value, right? Because usually y'all could have been like, all right, y'all, I don't, it's already been long enough, so I'm gonna just let y'all go. But I feel like if you let us go, you would have been cutting us short and yourself short because it was your piece that we were waiting on, right? And like I call you and David left hook, right hook, and you can't win a fight with just one arm, right? So it was just good to see.
That's
It
good.
was good to see both of y'all still like David was holding his end, and then you came out and had the knockout blow. So I was just grateful to see that how dialed in you were, So that was really dope to see. So yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. It was crazy, but that is how I felt. I was like, I didn't want to hold people hostage at the expense of my technology, right? It was already the thing was supposed to end at 8 o'clock. It was already 8:10. I'm like, y'all really want to like for me to do my part? And they was like, yeah. I was like, well, I mean, y'all
And
gonna
if
do
we're
your
being
part.
if we're being honest, I feel like, and obviously, everybody has a right to what they're thinking, but I feel like there was a different humility in the room because we could have been like, all right, now we got enough, right? We
Mhm,
heard David's part. We don't need to
mhm,
hear your part. But you can see that we are all wanting value and that we're not at the level that, you guys are up to right now. So we want to get there. So we're like, listen, we don't know no better. So we
mhm.
need that value. So I'm grateful that we seen that humility in the room because people could have been left or been like, yeah, bro, like we not dealing with all this. But if you really want value, you're gonna do whatever it takes to get it, right? So I feel like that's something we also seen in that room that they sat through the whole thing, right? And
Yeah,
it wasn't valued throughout the entire 2-3 hours that y'all were talking. Like y'all were giving straight gems the entire time. It wasn't like there was a part where it was like we know this already because everything you guys are teaching us we don't know, right?
yeah,
So it's like if we're not humble enough to even receive that value, then how are we going to be able? Because you were like every seed, every deed is a seed, right? So now if we just forget it, when it's going to be our turn and something happen like that, they're going to be like, forget it. So I'm just grateful that there was a different humility in the room, so we could still get that knowledge from you. So yeah, man,
that's
it was
real.
great. Yeah,
That's real, bro. I mean, it just go back to the edict of how you do anything is how you do everything, right? It's like, it's raining outside. I don't want to get wet, so I'm gonna skip the gym today. It's like, no, you're gonna get wet and go to the gym,
yeah,
right? So it with every opportunity, there's always opposition, and the greater the opportunity, the greater opposition. And last night, I just feel as if, based on some of the feedback that happened during the presentation, it was clear as to why there was so much opposition because that was a big opportunity for many people that actually got a chance to hear the information. And more importantly, to your point, like it wasn't like David was playing elevator music in my absence. This man was building somebody's business from scratch.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it was crazy. It was crazy.
yeah.
You came back so strong with so much value. I'm glad you stayed longer. I was tuned in the whole time, ignoring my kids. Like, mom, I need these gyms. Y'all crazy. I appreciate who is that? BS. Who is that? Let me know your name in the chat. So with all that being said, bro, so you took a pivot from the last time that we were on here. Why don't
Yeah.
you get us caught up a little bit as to what's going on with your business?
Yeah. So as I was approaching the business and doing the work that I was doing, I was realizing that there was a sense of like resistance and procrastination. I was still it was still there when I was trying to do the work, right? So I'm asking myself, like, why am I not like all in and just bought out on doing like into this niche, right? And I was just doing some digging, and it was actually me talking to my sister. Thank God for my sister. I think my sisters are like, they were my first versions of mentors, right? So I went
Mm.
to my sister and I'm like, hey, I'm about to do this and I'm about to do that. Like, what do you think about this? And she was like, well, I feel like you shouldn't do that. I feel like you should go this route of emotional intelligence, because every time you talk, that's what comes out of your mouth. I
Hmm.
was like, right? And I never was thinking about that. I'm just thinking it's so natural that I'm like, I wasn't thinking about it, right? But I was really just doing some deep digging and some self-reflection, like, okay, what do I speak about every time I talk? Like, no matter the conversation, no matter who I'm speaking to, and emotional intelligence was that. And I realized even the friends that I have around me, every time I talk to them about emotional intelligence, whether I say emotional intelligence or not. Like, for example, this past Sunday, I was talking to this couple that just wanted to start out as friends. They didn't start the right way, so they wanted to start out as friends. And she was like, but I want him to grow closer. I want him to be in his word. I want him to do this. I'm like, you keep screaming answers at him and you're not telling him how to get there. So he'll never get there. I was like, next time, instead of screaming answers, start giving him the framework of how to get to where you're at. And then he'll get to where you want him to be consistent and in the word. But right there, I didn't even realize I was coaching emotional intelligence. I was
Hmm.
just doing that because that's what I know, right? So went back to the drawing board and I was like, what is going to make me go all out, never look back, and put my hand to the plow? And I realized that the young adults in this day and age, they need help with emotional intelligence. They need help to get out of cycles of self-sabotage and learn how to go from self-sabotage to self-mastery. So then I ended up pivoting and changing my niche to helping faith-driven young adults go from self-sabotage to self-mastery by equipping them with emotional intelligence tools, biblical and transformational frameworks, so they can live a life that God called them to be. I was gonna say unapologetic flourishing, but I gotta dumb down the brilliance a little bit. So I'm helping them live a life that God called them to live and help them truly become the answer that
Okay.
God called them to be. So yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Fire, right? Why?
yeah.
Because one, most people don't have enough humility to pivot,
Mm,
especially when they publicly declared that they were doing something already. Most people they refuse to walk that back, which is why they're in businesses that are burdens,
mm,
right? Because they said this is what I do, and this is the thing, bro. I'm never married to an inferior decision. Like I'm never married to an inferior decision. Yesterday, as an example, I got back on with the idea of, hey, you know what, y'all? I don't want to hold y'all here tonight. I'll do my part in Facebook Live. Y'all can go and watch it when y'all done. That was a decision and a good one. Until everybody said, no, we would rather stay on here with you for you to finish your part. And what did I do? I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do it right now. I'm never married to an inferior decision. Most people are, though. And when
mm,
you look at scripture, you look at Abraham, right?
yeah,
Him and Sarah came up with an inferior decision, which was Ishmael. But the generational blessing came through Isaac,
hmm,
which was God's provision.
yeah,
When they took matters in their own hand with Hagar and had the baby Ishmael, that was their decision.
yeah.
Isaac was God's decision, which was the better decision. So when you look at that, a lot of the time we'll get married to our Ishmael decision instead of our Isaac decision, which is the right one that we supposed to do, that the generational blessing come from.
That's such a good word.
Right?
Mm,
Right? I got that from my man Dr. D. Okay, I got to give him his props where it came from, right? And it had me on this mission of searching it out, and I was like, oh, this cold, right?
yeah,
So here's the thing. Number one, kudos to you for not being married to an inferior decision. Okay. Secondly, the only concern that I have at this point, from everything you shared thus far, is that we got to tighten up the message a little bit. I like to see you get that down to a more stateable soundbite that you wouldn't have to read something off of it. Because if you just met somebody and they ask you
yeah,
what you do, you can't pull out your phone and read the whole, right?
100%.
So it just needs to get more concise in that, so you can just tell somebody. Like,
Yeah,
so who do I help? Like, I help, whatever that is, but it need to be quickly and stateable.
yeah. I was gonna to make it shorter, like a soundbite. If somebody would be like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and I help faith-driven young adults go from self-sabotage to self-mastery by equipping them with emotional intelligence tools." And I would have just stopped there. So keep it shorter, but
So remember this:
yeah,
you always want to sell the sizzle, not the steak.
mm,
When you look at advertising online, right?
yeah,
What do you always see? You see the sizzle on the steak. The sizzle is there intentionally because the sizzle sells the steak. So even just saying the first part about what you help them do, how you help them ain't important. The payoff that they get is what's important. So you want to sell the sizzle and not the steak.
mm,
If the sizzle is if the sizzle is enticing enough, then they'll want to know more about the steak and how you prepared it.
that's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So yeah, you just really broke that down for me. I'm gonna just go back and make sure I have it on a soundbite because I even created like a few flyers to where if I'm networking with somebody, they could just scan the QR code. But I want to make sure by the time I get there, I'll be able to just like you said, sell the sizzle instead of just trying to give them the whole steak and be like, here you go, right? Because
It's too much. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
yeah, that's
They
exactly what I
they
was gonna
tummies
say.
ain't ready yet. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
still need Gerber, and you giving them baby backs. It's too much.
100%. So yeah, I totally agree. But I'm even just grateful that I made this pivot because I already seen a change in how I'm approaching the work, right? So I'm already thinking of series to teach, right? Because one of the things that I was going to talk about today was because you were talking about scripture, and one of the scriptures I was studying, it came from the Purpose to Profits, matter of fact, right? So you was talking about how they curse the one who doesn't sell and they bless the one who does, right? And somebody put in the chat another verse, and I was studying that verse and the other verse, and the other verse they put in was a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men, right? And I didn't realize that's what I was walking in, right? So I had to sit there and really like soak on that and meditate on that because I was going to talk about today about how some things are taught and other things are caught. And when by our childhood, we caught characteristics, traits, and habits on how to suppress ourselves, not knowing the reason why you struggle giving your gift is because you're so used to suppressing everything. So how you do anything is how you do everything. So you're trying to give your gift, but you struggle with it because you've been taught or caught the things of how to just suppress your gift, how to suppress your personality, your voice. So I was going to talk about that today, but I didn't even realize I was sitting in that verse, right? You are, for example, what I'm in, right? Great men that people who I never thought I'd speak to. But I was just like, I'm even seeing a different approach on how I'm going about my work because now I'm more excited to help people go from cycles of self-sabotage to self-mastery. So I was just even seeing the difference on how I'm thinking about it, different frameworks I want to teach. And this is just I get excited teaching these things, right? So I was
Mhm.
realizing with the other niche, it was like I'm happy to do it, but it wasn't like I was excited, like I'm getting up every day, like let's do it, let's teach these people. So
Yeah.
this one, when I made this pivot, I realized like, yeah, this is exactly where I need to be. And I was like, it comes with me being okay for God to be like, I was reading the book of Matthew, and Joseph was gonna go back to his hometown. And he was like, nah, I'm not going back to my hometown. And as he was going, the Lord told him, go somewhere else. Right. So I was like, I need to be humble enough to, even if I have my mind made up and the Lord said, go here. If he say pivot, pivot. Right. So that's just where my mindset was on changing this niche. But now I'm going to just work on, like you said, making sure I sell the sizzle and not the steak, because not everybody's going to listen to emotional intelligence tools, biblical and transformational framework. So
It's a lot. It's a lot.
yeah, that is a lot. So I'm gonna and what would you suggest that I sizzle it down to? If you could, give me some insight on that.
So what's their payoff?
Um I said they're gonna, because I had to change the wording from unapologetic flourishing. So I was just like, they're just gonna be they'll become, the answer that God created them to be. That's the shortest, simplest way that I could put unapologetic flourishing to becoming the answer that God created them to be. Because not everybody knows about the John 10:10 life. So I can't say that, right? So I was like, let me just, from an unapologetic flourishing, I was either gonna say become who God called you to be or become the answer that he created you to be. So I was just going to shorten that to one of those two things.
And I think that's good, but I believe there still needs to be a better word picture of that,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Becoming the answer to what? Becoming, like, I just think it needs to be a better illustration of, remember, where you picked them up from and where you dropped them off at.
Yeah.
The destination, because they sail the Maldives, they don't sail the 23-hour flight to get there. You just so happen, after you get so hype about getting to the Maldives, you realize, like, man, I'm gonna be on a plane for 26 hours. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But now it's like, but I want the Maldives. That's what I saw. That's my destination. That's my vision.
Yeah.
So what is that? What are some other descriptors to show what their life looks like as a result of becoming that?
Mm. That's a great question. And I wrote a few of these down in my journal, but I was to name a few, right? You'll walk confidently in your God given assignment, right? You will, and it's easy to say you'll walk in your purpose, right? But I think that's just very common. So I was like, you're walking your calling, or you'll, and that's why this, when you told me to dumb down to brilliance, all I think about is flourishing, right? So I'm like, if you don't like if you don't know what flourishing is, it's like, but that's the wording I want to use. But obviously I'm not going to use unapologetic because some people still don't know that. But it's like you by the when I pick you up, right? The destination is going to be you are going to be flourishing in all
Okay,
areas.
let's do this. Let's do this
Yeah.
because now it's going somewhere. And Bianca, I see your question. We're gonna get to it in here in just a second. Okay, where are you picking them up from,
What
and
what
who are they?
um they are faith driven young adults, right? So like and to take what Bianca kind of just said, right? She was just saying next generation of confident leaders, creators, and thinkers, right? I think that'll be great to those are the people to be picking them up. But faith driven young adults, next generation leaders, next generation creatives, next generation kingdom entrepreneurs, right? So those are those people that I wanna pick up.
So okay, so next gen creatives, leaders, thinkers, right? That's
Yeah.
cool. But where are you picking them up from? Remember,
From
in every great offer, there's three P's: pain, potential, and pleasure.
yeah.
Right. So where of those different categories, where like describe me somebody that you've been on the phone with and describe me of where they fall in that category in terms of where you would be picking them up from.
So for example, there's this I have this other friend that we talked to about business, but I'm picking her up from right indecisiveness, right hesitation. Um, what else? I'm picking her up from also cycles of self sabotage of starting and stopping, right? The indecisiveness, the double mindedness, the lack of confidence, um, the lack of self belief, right? So that's where I'm picking her up from to where when I drop you off, you'll confidently walk in your calling. You won't second guess yourself on your God given assignment. You'll literally be birthing everything that God has called you to birth and give birth to.
Okay. So based on where she's at with indecision, um, no stick to itness, what kind of issues is that causing her in her life?
Um, First off, a lack of fulfillment. Um, and I say this, but I don't think our generation understands this that fulfillment is truly the highest form of currency, right? So I say that, and people are like, huh? Like, but you got to go do some research and digging to understand that. But lack of fulfillment, lack of purpose, lack of income, right? Because everybody, they want their pockets full. But if you're not giving the gift, that's why I think that verse in Proverbs 18:16 is so important because it says a man's gift. So I'm like, if you're not giving your gift, it's not the room you're wanting, the room you're looking for, right? Only comes from the gift that God gave you to give. So lack of income, lack of purpose, lack of fulfillment, and lack of joy, right? So and those are just a few things right there that it's causing her. And you're living, like you said, an inferior decision. You're living an inferior life, right? So you're not living the life that God has called you to live.
Okay. So this is what I mean by painting a clear word picture.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but this is a suggestion if you want me to give it to you.
Yeah. Give it, please.
So before you said the word fulfillment, that's the word I thought about 10 minutes ago. Okay.
Yeah.
But even that don't tickle the ears as well. What I believe I heard you say, if I got fulfillment, if I got joy, if I got sense of self-worth, if I got clear vision, what I really have at that point in time, what I really have is abundance.
Mm,
My payoff is abundance.
that's good.
And the beautiful part about abundance is typically people associate abundance with some type of monetary value, which is always important for an offer because people paying you with a monetary representation called dollars. So if their payoff is abundance, then it's abundance in all of those areas, including their finances. Because if they become healthy and whole, if they get clear on their vision and on their purpose and their goals and their gifting, then they're going to seek fulfillment, and as a result of that, they're going to end up with money. They're going to end up profitable in every aspect of their life. So when I hear you say all of that, to me, that's synonymous. The payoff is synonymous with having abundance.
Mm, yeah, that's good. I'll listen. I'll take that. I want to, like you said, I don't want to give them a long description to push them away. Because if I'm over here trying to figure out, oh, you're gonna also get this and that. Listen, just abundance, right? Like you said.
Because here's the reality: if you are a next gen creative leader, thinker, whatever, and you don't feel as if you live in an abundant life, that's what I do. I help you reach the level of abundance that you desire.
Mm,
That's the sizzle.
that.
Everybody on here, what's y'all thoughts? Right? That tickles my ears. I'm curious. I'm leaned in. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm actually no. I don't feel like I'm living abundantly right now. I'm interested in that.
Yeah. That's good. I agree, bro. Because I wanted to put it in simpler terms, right? Because like that was my mission statement, but to really just dumb it down for, like you said, our generation, right? Everybody knows what abundance is, right?
Right.
And everybody's thinking of abundance and monetary value. But if I now am able to give you a mindset shift of what abundance truly is,
Facts.
over with. Over.
Facts. You
So
dangle
yeah,
the carrot. You dangle the carrot to get them through the door, and then you feed them the carrot afterwards.
yeah. So can you give me like the sizzle now in a complete sentence so I can write this down for my for my mission statement or put it on my flyers or whatever that I do. So
I don't know. I just, me, I don't be paying no attention to when I be talking. That's your job to pay attention to what I be saying. I don't pay attention to what I be saying.
yeah, I'm gonna go back and do the homework. I just know you be
No,
having
no,
so much
you
fire, man.
so right now I gave you abundance. So now you tell me what is your signal to the marketplace, to your marketplace.
That's a good. That's a
Who do
good.
you help? How
Yeah, I
do you
help
help? Yeah, who
next
do you
gen.
help?
Yeah, we're gonna help the next gen creative leaders, thinkers, kingdom entrepreneurs. I help you go from where you at, right? Cycles of self-sabotage, whatever word I come up with in that, to a life of abundance. So I'll come up with that word beforehand because I want to have some opposite of abundance, right?
How about I help you go from feeling empty to abundant?
It's perfect.
Anybody that's lacking fulfillment has an emptiness. That's just the feeling, right? That's the
Yeah,
void that we try to fill with counterfeit, with
yeah,
drinking, with smoking, with shopping, with traveling, with all the things other than Christ. And so we left with this void, and then we left without our money because we used our money to try to fill the void, and the money ain't gonna fill the void. Only being on purpose and operating and flourishing in your gifts will you fill that void.
yeah,
The only
yeah.
way to be fulfilled is to do something fulfilling.
Say that again, please.
The only way to be fulfilled is to do something fulfilling.
Mm, That's good. That's good.
I'm having it trademarked, so it is that good. I came up with this like 2 years ago, that particular phrase right there. But you can use it though. You can use it for now.
Yeah. I'll use it maybe in a webinar or one of my coaching weeks or something like that. But yeah, man, that's great. I appreciate that because I really wanted to simplify it, especially like you were telling me the other day to dumb down the brilliance. Um, I realize I have to a lot of the times when I'm talking to people, I have to re-explain because of how far off the the vocabulary is, right?
Yeah,
So when I tell somebody unapologetic flourishing, they're like what is that, right?
yeah,
In other words, you're just going to live a life where but I have to re-explain what unapologetic flourishing is, right? So I don't want to do that to every single person that I'm speaking to. So I'm grateful that you just helped me go from empty to abundance, right? Like you said. So I'm
yeah.
grateful you were able to do
Confusion don't make money. It just don't.
that.
And you know, one of the biggest problems with communication is believing that it happened. If they don't understand, y'all ain't had no communication. Y'all ain't talk about nothing. So it behooves us all to understand our audience and speak to them in a way in which they understand.
Mm,
Otherwise, you wasting words and their time.
that's good. What? Can you say that mistake again?
The biggest mistake in communication is believing that it happened.
Man, that's so good, bro.
Let's see if we
What?
can help Candace out real quick. So
Yeah.
Candace said, "What my sizzle be? I help kingdom business women serve purposefully." See, I'm already tripping over them words. We got to go back and put that up one more time. I help kingdom business women serve purposefully, give generously, and thrive personally. It's a lot of long leads. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot
Yeah.
of long leads. And by the way, I'm teasing. You know, I told you I'm a slow reader. So for me, when I see that, it's just like it take long enough to read, much less say. And I think it's an easier way to say things. And I think also it's a difficult thing to do. It's always the easier way to say things, and it's a difficult thing to figure out how to say them easier. But that's a challenge for us, right? We want to make more money in the marketplace. We got to get better with shorter, straight to the point kind of conversation.
And I have a question about that. Why do you think?
By the way, some
Yeah.
things are better written than said too,
Mm,
right? So I want y'all to have, for lack of better terms, your elevator pitch to where if you in the elevator with somebody and they ask you what you do, that you can say something within their attention span.
mm,
The things that we write are not better stated. Does that make sense? Candace, I
yeah.
don't know if you're still on here. Let me know if you're tracking.
That's good.
Right? Kingdom business women. I get it. I mean, I like it, by the way, just so you know, right? Y'all here to get coaching, so I'm coaching you, right? But
Yeah.
I like the concept, but I think the language just needs to be a little bit tighter. And maybe it's faith-based women. I don't know. I don't know if it's, I don't know. I think it's worth sitting with and just seeing how you could shorten that up a little bit. Or if you keep the kingdom business women, I help kingdom business women. Or what about women kingdompreneurs, right? Make that more of a compound. I help women kingdompreneurs, right? Serve purposefully, generously, and thrive personally.
She then said, "Serve, give, and thrive abundantly."
Serve, give, and thrive abundantly. Serve, give, and thrive abundantly. Now, mind you, though, now this is the only catch, right? If they're kingdom, if they're kingdom business women, I had to refer back to the thing. I had to read it. You know what I'm saying? I help kingdom business women serve, give, and thrive abundantly. So, based on who my avatar is, kingdom business women, if they already kingdom, there's a good possibility that they believe that they already serve, give, and thrive well because they're kingdom business women. So you see how there could be some contention with that.
It's good.
As opposed to I help kingdom business women avoid burnout, being overextended, right? Things that they actually are going to incur. Because you know they always, if you do serve well, sometimes people take advantage of that and you overserve in areas you shouldn't be, in seasons that you shouldn't be. You overcommitted all the time. And you can't give what you don't got.
Mm.
But I definitely think as a written statement, Candace, I think it's okay for right now. But I certainly will figure out a different way because I think there's a stronger payoff to what you do. And I don't know that those words they seem too generic to me for the transformation that you actually help the women get. I think there should be a better word picture to describe the payoff you get them. Maybe it's I help them maximize their gifting, right? Maximize. So even if they thought that they operate in their gifts, right, you're helping them maximize their gifting. You know, things of that nature. Like it needs to be a big idea at the end of the day that you help them get in terms of their payoff.
That's good. So yeah, you making me want to change mine. So it's like I help kingdom uh, creatives, thinkers, and leaders go from emptiness to a life of abundance. Right. That's a quick elevator pitch. Right. Like something like that.
My bad. Say that again. See, I told you I'm a slow reader. I was
No,
trying to
you
read
good. You
fast
good.
and listen to you. Say that
No,
again.
no, no. She just said, okay, I'll continue to work on it. Thanks. Um, but yeah, I was saying though, like a quick elevator pitch would be like, um, I help next gen kingdom creatives, leaders, and thinkers go from emptiness to a life of abundance. Like that's a quick. And then somebody will be like, how? And then I'll be like, I equip them with X, Y, and Z and tell them how to get there. So
You know what? I mean, even if you did when, and I don't know this, so I'm asking you. When
yeah,
you
yeah.
say the word next gen, is that synonymous with like only the people in the church and the faith understand that? Or if you said next gen, that's talking to a different group of people. And the reason I'm asking that is if next gen already signals to creatives, thinkers, and leaders,
Mm,
then it's redundant for you to have to say those things. You could just say, I help the next gen go from feeling empty to abundant.
mm, that's good.
You see what I mean? If
Yeah,
next gen is already rolled up into those categories are rolled up into that category,
yeah.
then I don't know that you need to expand
On who?
on who.
Yeah, got you.
I help the next gen that's suffering from emptiness get to a place of abundance.
It's good. It's good. Because I was thinking of something better to even put in my bio to what I do and how to get them. So just putting that quick elevator pitch, I want to put that in my bio instead of helping X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. Like I don't want to drag it out. But yeah, I'll do that. I help next gen go from feeling empty to a life of abundance, or a life of emptiness to a life of abundance, something like that. So but yeah, that's fire. That's fire.
So then you could create your content around all the things they do to try to fill that void of emptiness.
Mm, that's good. And that's crazy that you're saying that because I literally was going to ask you about pivoting my content that way, right? Just
100%.
going that route, and then because I'm already thinking of different things to teach about. Like for example, I want to go into a little bit about suppression for the end of the week, and then I was going to start a series next week talking about um, trust issues, right? On where trust issues stem from, how trust issues show up in our calling and in our walk, and the dangers of trust, like just going down a week of just explaining that. And the only reason I was going to ask you about it was because I know I have my offer, so I didn't want to. I wanted to get like a few more things situated with the offer, like my slides, my webinar title, and all that before I start promoting that and getting that out there. Because I don't want to start promoting it like when it's happening. I'm like, well, y'all gotta wait. A couple things gotta happen first, right? So I wanted to pivot with my.
That's a good problem to have though.
Okay.
It's called being oversubscribed. It's a book
Yeah.
by Daniel Priestley called Oversubscribed. It'd be a good book for you to read. Their preference is to always have wait lists.
Mm,
So if the market is signaling that they want it, that's great, and it just further incentivizes you to hurry up and get it done.
yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, couple things that I want to remind you of, right?
Yes,
Because
sir.
you are 23, and your generation is different in this regard.
Yeah.
They all the time when you leading people, it should always feel as though you're leading them side by side, right? But even more importantly, with your generation, that they don't feel like you talking at them and preaching at them, but that you come from where they come from. So you've been able to share your personal testimony, of which I'm privy to some of it, and let them know in some of your content how relatable you are. Not you talking from your ivory tower, but that you literally lived that life and been able to get on the other side of it. It's going to be very important for them to feel the authenticity and how you've overcome a lot of the very things that they're struggling with.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
So
And
you
I'm
can be preacher and teacher, but you're going to have to be homie all at the very same time in some of
yeah.
that content.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I realized that I feel like it's going to take everything that I do over the top, because it's easy to talk at someone and not with someone, right? Like it's easy to just tell you do X, Y, and Z to get here instead of being like, yo, I've been there. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that was the one thing that I was going to include more, is just my personal, just relating to them, right? Because it's easy to just tell them the answer and how to get there, but it's like, how did you get there, right? Or like, what did you go through to get there? For example, my the video today I wanted to do on suppression, I was like, I'm gonna be like, yo, I was the master of suppression. Okay, if you didn't want to know some, I was doing it, right? So just to give them some more, relatability, because I don't want them to just think like, oh, okay, he know it all. Like you said, I don't want to just talk from my ivory tower. And on top of that, sadly, we're in a weaker generation, right? So even if I were to do that, people will feel more attacked, right? And I don't want to attack
Oh,
them,
definitely.
right?
Yeah.
So I know we're in a generation where it's like, if I don't walk with them side by side, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, he attacking me, or he better than, and I don't, how that get in the marketplace, especially
Yeah.
for my
No, I
age.
do. I do.
I don't want to deal with none of that. I don't want to deal with none of that. But yeah, man, that's good. I appreciate you for just reminding me of that, because I can get preacher and teacher mode and not be homies.
I know. I know. I know. I know.
I,
And I'm telling you, they ain't gonna be sitting in the church fanning themselves. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have a whole different set of problems on your hands. I'm telling you right now.
yeah,
Yeah,
man,
they tie you to the truck and drag you through the mud.
I appreciate that.
But here's the beautiful part about it, right? And I can only have this conversation with you because I know you've actually endured the things that you're helping them with. But if they don't know that, then they're gonna think that you just pulling from somewhere that's inauthentic, when in fact you really have. There's some
Yeah,
people that really ain't lit, that never been on the dark side, so they can't speak from that perspective, right? But it go
yeah,
back to what I was saying before, like God will make you eat your sermons, so He not gonna let you play with them. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm just giving you the forewarning of, you might as well just know it's going to be some vulnerability involved, and telling them all the things that ask me how I know. This what type of time I was on,
and
and
I'm
here's
still
what I
in that.
discovered. And here's what I discovered when I was on that type of time. This
Yeah,
is how I know this is not going to end well for you.
and I'm still in that little phrase that you be saying. Ask me how I know. I'm still in that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got to. That's too
Ask me
far.
how I know.
Yeah, just for real. And I believe that this pivot, man, is, I'm excited for it, right? Like I'm actually excited to make this pivot to help and also to relate. I feel like not only, right, with me being a teacher and preacher, you're not a good teacher or preacher if you can't relate to the congregation, right? And communication is all about connection at the end of the day, right? So if I'm not connecting
Facts.
with the people I'm talking to, there's no point of me talking, right? I feel like for even with y'all in the Purpose to Profits, it's the stories that y'all tell about y'all zero story that make us more inclined to be hype about y'all hero story, right? So now we like, oh wow, like they did what we was doing, like they was making the same mistakes because the best communicators relate, right? So I just love the fact that you reminded me of that, because at times I get so caught up on the next level that I have to go back and get them from the previous level,
For
right? I'm
sure.
always like next level, and it's like, yo, they still back there. Like I gotta make sure I take care of them. So I appreciate you for
For sure.
reminding
I
me
mean,
about
and that's a good observation, right? This particular challenge, we got far more people from corporate there than we've had in ever, honestly. And so when I spent a little more time talking about my time in corporate on Tuesday, because I was consciously aware of that. Because it me and Dave could be driving the bus, but we got to make sure that everybody with us got on it. Otherwise, they still back there at the station, and we down the road. So to your point, like communication is connection, and we have a responsibility when we're communicating with others that we bring them along the way. Because if they don't get our help, then who gonna help them? So it's extremely important. And by the way, I hate talking about corporate, right? That's why I ain't there no more.
it.
But to allow them to see, this is the problem. This is why a lot of people, webinars, challenges, offers, that's why they don't convert. They talk to people about the wrong parts of their story because they so caught up in thinking about them, they're not thinking about the other people.
Mm,
So I'm willing to tell whatever part of my story that's relatable to the audience I'm talking to.
it's good.
If I hear somebody, if I know I'm in the audience of people who have dealt with addiction, then I can go in my bag and talk about my struggles with alcohol and why I quit drinking 6 years ago, 7 years ago, right? Like I got elements. I was looking at a 4 to 10 year felony when I was 17, had a baby at 18, right? I got, so if I'm talking to the youth or I'm talking to, like but I don't tell all the parts of my story every time I tell my story. I tell the parts that are relevant to the people I'm talking to.
It's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's having that kind of wherewithal is what separate the greats from the nots. And I don't consider myself a great. I'm not saying that, just so everybody clear. I'm on my way though, as long as I continue to run these reps and work on these things. Um, but everybody on here, if you're a business owner, you're a leader of sorts, you got to always understand it's never about you. It's always about them,
Yeah.
whoever them is. And you need to adjust to whoever them is in that particular context.
That's good. That's so strong, bro. Because you helping me really just blow everything out the water and everyone out the water, because now I know who I'm talking to, right? For example, like even in the video, I'm grateful I didn't even record it yet, but I was going to talk about suppression and just talk about how to get out of it instead of relating on how I was there, right? I was just going to be like, oh yeah, so suppression X, Y, and Z, instead of being like, man, listen, I done tried everything to suppress myself. I done tried to sell the drugs. I done tried the girls. I done tried running away. I tried everything, right? And you can't suppress you, right? So I'm just grateful that you brought that back to my memory, because it's so easy to tell somebody how to get somewhere and not relate to them how you were there. So I just appreciate you for even telling me that, because now I know which parts of my story I'm gonna tell within my content, and not just have A, B, and C. All right, here's the answer, right? So I want to relate more. And on top of that, I was making the content I was doing, I was realizing I got to make it a little bit longer so I can get those parts of the story in there, right? So there was times I was trying to make it short, but there was no relatability, so they weren't watching, right? So now I want to make it a little bit longer to be like, yo, like I was right there. Like I didn't know what my purpose was a year ago. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't here a year ago, right? So I want to just let them know that, but they wouldn't know if I'm just telling them, hey, your issue is you don't listen, right? I don't want to just have content where it's 30 seconds and I'm just talking at them, and then they like, yeah, I don't even know this dude, we don't know nothing about his story, right? Because I haven't really brought up my story enough in my content. That's why I
For
feel like this
sure.
pivot is
For
going to be
sure.
huge, to where now they're going to be like, oh wow, like he's really opening up and telling us about who he is, and now we know more about him. So I appreciate that
For
100%.
sure. That's good. By the way, I'm glad we thought about this. We got about 7 minutes left. When you were talking about telling people what to do,
Yeah.
right? So when I watched your homework from the challenge about the pre-frames, your pre-frames, which I guess were pre-frames, but they wouldn't be as effective. And here's
Okay.
why. Because one of your pre-frames were some along the lines of when people come onto your webinar, you tell them, hey, I just want to let you guys know that this is not going to be nothing like anything else that you've ever experienced. I want you to know that at the end of this, you actually going to get XYZ, right?
Yeah.
That is a pre-frame, by the way. And I do the same thing going into a challenge. Maybe even on a webinar, I don't remember it as distinctly as I do on the challenge. But here's why that's not a good pre-frame. Because they don't believe you.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just
Yeah.
being honest. Like until they see that, they don't trust you yet. Still, you're still a stranger to them. So a pre-frame is now a better pre-frame is how many of you have been to a webinar and then explain the symptom of what normally happens,
Mm.
where they pretend like they're gonna teach you something and they really just trying to sell you something. I mean, has anybody experienced that other than myself? So now you've become one with them because y'all all got the same problem. None of y'all, you included, don't like that. So here's what we're not gonna do. That. Because I despise that just as much as y'all despise that. Now you got some that'll still be kind of in the back, like, but majority you just won over as a friend. Because you talked about the thing they're already thinking about. The purpose of the pre-frame is to help them see things from a different perspective than the one they currently have. So for many of them, the fact that you acknowledged it already makes you different. Because for everybody else, they come in and try to act like that's not what's going on 90% of the time.
Mm.
So remember, the purpose of a pre-frame, essentially a pre-frame is what I say first will change the way they feel about what I say next.
That's good. That's good. And I needed that because especially for my first webinar coming up, like real soon after these slides get done, because I really have everything. Like, bro, I'm like probably two tweaks away from launching. Right. I just need the webinar, and it's just it's reps after that. Right. I got the
Yeah.
website up and all that, so it's just really the reps that I got to get in. But I want to make sure not to be perfect, but to be efficient. Right, like that's what I'm focused on, being efficient, using the most efficient framework and not trying to be perfect and say every word right. Like I'm not worried about that. I'm still gonna stumble over words to show that I'm human, right? So I'm just worried about making sure it's the most
But watch
efficient.
this. But you're gonna stumble over words because you are human. Not to show you are human. You're gonna stumble over words because you are human. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
You, you
100%.
and that's I'm glad you're consciously aware of that already, bro. Like self-awareness is everything. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. I used to have that same problem, right? So I understand where you're coming from, but it ain't about being perfect. It's about making impact. And sometimes you can be so perfect that you won't make impact. There's times it's if I'm gonna keep it a buck, even Monday, the way I prepared for Monday and how I felt like I performed on Monday, I was not okay. But part of our prayer before we even went on that day was that we would decrease so that he increase. So then I'm like, and it's almost always when I pray that prayer that things don't go the way I think they should. And I think it's because of what the prayer is. He's like, okay, I'll answer that. So let me do it my way. You know what I'm saying? It'd be
Yeah.
almost like sometimes he just snatched my tongue, like, stop. You know what I'm saying? Be like, whoa, bro, where'd that come from? And so, but what's the point? The point is because sometimes, even in our perfection, the people that we serving could miss the point. So he
Mhm.
do things in his way. And you just got to trust that. You know what I mean? I'm going to prepare like nobody's business, but then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the way he want me to do it. However that play out. Yesterday, with all that chaos and having to present from my phone because I lost my Wi-Fi was clearly the way he wanted me to do it yesterday. So I Captain, right? But had I not prepared myself, then I wouldn't have been able to do that. right? Had I not been prepared and I would have been relying on my normal setup, then I'd have been like, well, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to wait until I get my like I wouldn't have been able to do it.
And you know what the best part about I think you doing it from your phone showed, and I know you probably have a whole different mindset, but I'm always thinking of how God moves and getting a word from it. It just it shows how you were like, I'm usually relying on my first setup. Everybody's first setup is their phone. Everybody's first setup is their phone. So it just showed how you were like, listen, I'm not afraid to do it the way that I started doing it, right? Which is from the
Mm.
phone. You doing it from the phone. And if people don't see that from the leader, they won't do that at all, right? So people
Mm.
always, they're going to see your nice setup and be like, oh, wow, he always has a nice setup. Now, I didn't always have a nice setup. I still need to take out the phone and record because I remember, like you told me, you need to put your phone up and go record,
Yeah, that's
right?
good,
So
bro.
then
I
it
I didn't even
literally,
see that one. That's good. Yeah, that's
right, so
good.
it reiterated the fact that, yo, like, this is where we all start, regardless if I have this setup, I still gotta go back to that
It's
setup.
real. It's really crazy that you say that, bro, because that's what I'm saying. At one point, I was frazzled. I was listening to my wife, and I'm like, but where I'm gonna sit my phone at? You know what I'm saying? Like none of this was making sense to me. And then God just prompted me and was like, bro, you got a tripod over there. I'm like, oh yeah, I could use that. You know, that's what I shoot. That's what I used to shoot my content on.
Yeah,
And I put my phone in the tripod, and it was like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, let's do it.
yeah,
So I,
yeah,
I literally, that's great perspective. I hadn't even thought about that.
yeah. And I think that's what I think it made it even better, right? So it's first setup that you ever had, best value you're ever given, right? Like you're giving value, like you paid thousands of dollars for it, you giving it off a tripod and phone setup, right? So now it just shifts the whole perspective of the room. Like, yo, if he's doing it this way, we have no excuse, right? And I think you showed no excuses yesterday in that whole
Mm.
process. Like even after how many times you was trying and trying and trying, you finally got on like, listen, because you could have gave up at that at. You could have been like, all
Yeah.
right, y'all, like we've been here for an hour plus. I know David, you know, y'all got lives and stuff, but it's like if we want to change our lives, we got to stay in the room that's going to change our lives, no matter how long it takes, right? So I feel like you even just showing us that really just showed us like, hey, if I got to start from here, you got to start from here too. But people are scared to start from there. So I'm glad you've shown that because now people don't have an excuse. People don't have one. Now they're going to be, oh, I don't have Brian's setup. Okay, Brian didn't use the setup yesterday, though. So now what's your excuse, right? So I
Yeah,
think you
that's
just
hard.
really, yeah, bro, that was fire. That was
That's
fire.
hard.
Yeah. So that's the
That's hard.
perspective that I just got. Because I was like, yo, he was just showing me, like, use your phone. What now? What's your excuse? The phone could do the same thing the iPad and the camera could do. Use your phone, right? So I'm just grateful that you did that, and it's in you not even liking how that went that made it go even better, right? So now there's 5 messages and one message that you probably had for us, right? So that was
Yeah.
great. I appreciate
Which,
that.
which which is really crazy that I've gotten so accustomed to your point, this elaborate setup, that I forgot how powerful just using my phone could be. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I got grounded in what you said. It was like that's
Yeah,
crazy, you know. But you're
yeah,
right.
and
When you rip, when you tear it all down, it's like yeah, you need a device, whatever that looks like for you. You need a device, and you got
yeah,
to be willing to cut it on.
100%.
And it ain't about the device; it's about what you're delivering. That's the key. It ain't the
100%.
device; it's what you're delivering.
100%. It's so funny that you say that because it's you telling me in this coaching call to take people back. That's literally what you did yesterday.
Mm.
You just did that. It's so crazy. You like, yeah, take people back. You know, relate to them. Be the homie. You just showed us you being a homie yesterday by just going back to your phone
Mm.
because you didn't have to. You could have just been like, all right, y'all. Like, I'll go Facebook Live with everything. No, that rawness and authenticity right there is what blew the value out of the water, right? That's what I feel like changed it. Because you could have this setup, been teaching, doing the same thing, smooth, nice, and that made you decrease so he can increase, right? So now that's more, you just gave us a whole different perspective of how to approach our work. That no matter what, like no matter the device, make sure you deliver, right? And I feel like a lot of people say, oh, I'll deliver when I have the right devices. How about you just deliver with the device that you have? right?
Fact.
And that's literally what you showed us. So I appreciate that, man. You showed humility, leadership, you showed dialed in. It was all of the things, but I'm grateful that you showed us that 100%.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. I appreciate it, man.
yeah.
Well, any last thoughts? I do need to prepare for the night. If anything showed me yesterday, I'm like, yeah, be prepared for anything. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you though, I was telling David this last night after we wrapped. I was fortunate enough to be a part of a challenge a few years ago where I saw one of my mentors. It literally started raining in his office. Like the roof fell, it was raining in his office, and you could hear the water pouring. And you can't see it though, because it's a tight frame on him, but you could hear the water, and there's people running around getting buckets. And, and actually, it was on like a family reunion day. It was like and he finished. He finished
Mm,
the session, bro. So it's just a part of it, man. We don't get to pick it. We don't like it when it happens, but
yeah.
it's definitely a part of it for sure.
Yeah. And just the last thing I'll say before, I'll let you go and prepare and whatnot. But I think the one of the different thing that I was studying about you and David's communication is how you guys express your personality as you're communicating value. I feel
Mhm.
like that was the difference that's what I was taking away personally, because I want to be a great communicator. I want to be a speaker. I personally believe, and I already know, I'm going to be speaking on stages. I'm going to be speaking global. I'm going to be speaking at conferences, all those good things, right? But right now, I was even reading the story of Jesus, and he had 30 years of training
Mhm.
before he did his first ever work in ministry. So I'm like, I need to make sure I'm rooted in that same way, but taking wherever the Lord takes me, I need to get gems from it. And I was just seeing through y'all communication how you guys were expressing y'all personality, and it wasn't robotic. Right, it was literally as if we talking to two people who like, yo, y'all coming or what? Right, it was just a real genuine experience with all the value that you guys packed into it. And I feel like that's what separates you guys as communicators, is that
Mhm.
you guys are still being yourself within the value that you're giving. So I realized that's what I have to start doing with my value to separate me from everybody else. But yeah, I was just realizing that.
Believe it or not, bro, that's a good observation. Believe it, that's one of the hardest things to do. You know how you make it easier? By preparing yourself in a way. See, one of my consultants, he also went to film school when he was 40, and he executive produced a couple movies, and then he actually uh, starred in one of the movies. And he said it's this thing that they teach you in film school, and it's a concept of remember the script and then forget it. Remember the script and then forget it. So when you prepare for whatever the situation is in a way that you've almost remembered the script, then you can get up there and just forget it at that point.
Mm,
If I got to think my way through everything I'm supposed to say, then back to use your word, suppression, where this conversation started, I'm suppressing parts of me that want to come out but can't because I'm too busy thinking about other stuff.
it's good, bro.
So when you're not fully prepared, everybody is at a disadvantage, yourself included.
It's good, bro. It's good.
So then you're just reading a script.
Yeah.
But what are all the best acting moments? What are all the best moments in the film? Ad lib, stuff that wasn't in the script. The best moments in movies when you talk to them off camera, they like, oh yeah, that wasn't even in the script. Because when you dialed in, you remember the script and then you forget it. And that allows for what you would naturally do in a situation like that.
Mm. That's why you the mentor, bro. Appreciate you, man.
A couple things along the way.
I appreciate you, B, for sure.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. So look, we're gonna close with this. Bianca asks, or maybe I'll use I help parents take their children out of self-doubt and maximize their potential. I help parents take their children out of self-doubt and maximize their potential. It's close. All y'all very close, but the payoff just has to be a little more clear.
Okay.
Yeah, and you cooking with gas now. You just got to figure that out. The abundance piece is the way to go.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
everybody else is very close. You just got to illustrate. Like I help parents raise their kids to, and forgive me, I may have said it wrong now. I forgot it, but I help parents raise their kids to maximize their potential. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I want to buy that yet, though. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it got to be something bigger. Like what happens if they raise their, if what happens when they maximize their potential?
Mm,
What payoff do they get in their life as a result of maximizing their potential?
yeah. That's
Whatever
good.
that is the thing you need to talk about.
Yeah. That's good.
That's why when David was coaching my man Matt yesterday, it was so impactful. Matt was telling him what he had in his coaching program, like the essay assessment test and the this and the that, right? And then David was putting value to those things.
Yeah.
David was like, if you go through this grant program, right? Our clients they average they get somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 in grant money, right? Then he was like, if you go through our some essay program, you can get upwards of $100,000. He's illustrating the payoff. When people paying you with a measured amount of money, they need to be very clear about what the measured success is for them.
Yeah.
And I know it's not always monetary, but there's always some form of monetary impact from as a result of not getting the thing done. So y'all got some homework.
Yeah. Hey, you gave me mine. I said I'm gonna help next gen go from a life of emptiness to a life of abundance. Stick in there.
Facts.
Stick in
Facts.
there. I appreciate you, B.
See you tonight, man. Till
Yes,
next
sir.
time, good people. We see y'all next week. Matter of fact, hey, by the way, if this has been helping y'all, all we ask is that you share it, comment it, like it, all that good stuff. Push it out in the algorithm and tell a friend and tell a friend. We here next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Till next time.